Welcome to my channel. My name's Jared. In a recent update video, I explained why I was not going to paint the 356. So today, we're going to go over why I am going to paint the 356. Kind of. So, as you may know, I recently drove this car from Los Angeles to San Francisco and back. The car did really well. I enjoyed the drive. Everything went great. On the trip, I didn't get into any rain, but there were a few mornings when there was really dense, thick fog, and it was kind of drizzling. I had to use the windshield wipers a little bit, but there was definitely some moisture in the air and on the car. And as a result, you can see that it's starting to rust, right? So this is obviously exposed metal. And I've actually never washed this car. I've never hosed it off. I've only used kind of a little spray detailing type stuff and then wipe it off. So it's never actually gotten wet since I've owned it. But of course, during the drive, it did get wet a little bit. And so of course, now it's starting to rust where the bare metal is exposed. So my plan is to use touch-up paint just to cover the exposed metal. So I've considered this in the past, but I have some concerns. One, like I mentioned in previous videos, I do not plan on doing a full restoration on this car. That was never my intention. It doesn't make financial sense. It's not what I wanted to do. I don't mind that the car shows its age and shows its history, that it's been wrecked. That doesn't bother me at all. I do, however, wish that there wasn't so much metal exposed. I don't think it looks great the way that it is. I don't think this adds to the car having all of this exposed metal. So I have considered painting just the exposed metal before. The only issue is you can't undo that, right? If I paint that on and I don't like it, then I'm pretty much stuck with it. Because like I said, I'm not stripping this down. I'm not repainting the whole car. That's maybe 10 years from now if I ever do that. So I've always been a little hesitant to go this route because I can't undo it. But I have done a little bit of work in Photoshop to kind of see what it would look like. Obviously the paint's not going to match exactly. Obviously there's still going to be dents. It's still going to be very clear that the car was in an accident. It's not going to look brand new. It will look better at first glance than it does now. So maybe that'll be nice. Or maybe it'll look worse because it has a bunch of, crappy touch-up paint all over it. So we're going to see. Hopefully it's going to come out looking better in the end. But the thing it's definitely going to do is it's going to help control the rust. Now, people have asked me before, what are you going to do about the rust? And sometimes I put a coat of wax on them, like on the Honda S600. That has exposed metal. I put a little bit of wax on it. I'm not that worried about it. On this car, I'm actually not worried about the rust at all in the fact that it's going to damage the panel, because the panel needs to be replaced. This panel should never be reused. The amount of effort it would go into straightening this panel out to be usable is more effort than if you just cut it off and replaced it. So there's no reason to reuse this panel. It'll definitely be cut off and replaced if the car is ever brought back to new condition. So I'm not worried about the rust affecting the panel, but I am worried about, one, how it'll look, kind of, but mostly getting rust on you, right? Like just from touching this, I already have rust on my hands, right? This is the reason why I put clear coat on the Model T. Not because I wanted it to be shiny, it's because I didn't want to get rust on my hands every time I touched the car. I didn't want to get dirty just touching it. So I don't want rust kind of flaking off of this thing. I don't have to worry about brushing up against it and getting rust on my clothes. So I am going to attempt to actually paint over all the exposed metal with yellow touch-up paint. So first step is going to be to wash this car. It hasn't been washed yet since I did my road trip, so I need to clean it. The way that I get rid of this surface rust is I buff it. That's what I did when I first got the car. I buffed the whole thing, and that's what took off all the surface rust and got it down to clean, bare metal. So I'll buff all these areas out again over the rust, and that'll take that off, and then I'll clean it up probably with some acetone or something, and then we'll start applying the touch-up paint. So we'll see how it goes. All right, well, that actually looks pretty good. I guess we'll keep going. Okay, well, I am amazed at how well the paint matches. I want to give a shout out, and I'll put a link in the description to the place where I had the paint mixed. I've been using this place for years. It's called Ray's Paint Supply. It's in Culver City. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, I drive well over an hour just to get there because I like it so much. But the guy that runs the shop, Tony, he just did an amazing job. He spent an hour mixing this paint. I took the fuel door off of the car and I took that in for him to use as a sample. And of course we have the paint code, but at least in California, you can't go off of the old paint codes because the pigments and stuff that we use today are not the same, and there was no equivalent for that paint code, so he had to just mix it by hand. He doesn't use a computer or anything. He's just old school, just totally mix the paint by hand, and I'm amazed at how well it matches. This is the next day. I've let it dry overnight, so it's dry. So this is its finished color. So really impressed with how well the paint matches. And overall, I think it looks good. I left a few spots where it's not down to metal. This is just down to the primer. So these spots aren't rusting anyways. So I left a few spots like that because I really don't want to make it look like I'm trying to hide the fact that it was in an accident. I don't mind that it was in an accident. I like having that as part of the car's history. But this is definitely going to help stop the rust. And it does look a lot better. I mean, when you stand back, you can barely even tell that it was wrecked at this point. But as soon as you get close, obviously, it's very clear that it's been in a bad accident. So, yeah, overall, I like the way that it came out. Now we're going to take the car outside to see what it looks like out in the wild, because it always looks a little different in here with all these multiple light sources than it does outside. So let's go outside and see how it looks. All right, so here we are outside, and it is amazing how well the paint matches. I mean, from a short distance, you don't even really notice it that much. Obviously, up close, you can see a little bit of where I've used the touch-up paint. But it's a really good match. I'm very impressed. But okay, so that's it. I've painted it. There's no going back now. So let me know in the comments what you think. Does it look better like this, or did it look better before? I think I like it better like this. I mean, I'm stuck with it, so it is what it is. But I think it does look better. You can still see that it's damaged, but it doesn't look so awful. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Bye.